You're listening to episode 155 of the SBP Podcast Mobile Filmmaking, and I'm your host, Susy Botello. Who's here? Well, let's see. Jason Rivera is here. Levi Austin Morris is here. Joey Min and Ryan McDonald. They're all here. Let's make a film together. Is it art or is it science? Well, it's a little bit of both. And that's the topic that I want to discuss with our panelists today for Fade Into Film. Our panelists are here today, and we're going to discuss this topic and how mobile filmmaking plays into this decision. And do you have more freedom to be creative, to be more of an artist when you're making a movie with a smartphone, as opposed to traditional, conventional filmmaking as an indie filmmaker without using a smartphone? What happens with funding? What happens to your budget? And what I consider the most important part, what happens to the story? And I'm sure that our friends on the panel will come up with some things that I haven't even considered. We're going to have a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and let's get into it, and let's talk to our panelists who are standing by.
We are Fade Into Film.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good, yeah.
I thought that was for the listeners. I didn't know that was for us.
No, that was for you. That was for everybody.
Hello.
Yes. Levi's in the house, and Joey, Jason, Ryan, and you, our listeners, you're in the house. Welcome back to another episode of Fade Into Film. Erica E.T. Taylor is not here. She's we want to congratulate her. She's got some great news. She's got some new projects coming along, and she's got to deal with all that. So we just want to go congratulate her and ask. I know she's listening, so E.T., congratulations. Stay in touch.
Woo! Love you, E.T.
Go E.T.
All right, guys. So, as you know, our topic is about product versus film, and we're going to talk about that in a minute here. But first, I also wanted to check in with you guys. If anyone wants to jump in and give us an update on something that we should all know, that would be great. I do want to congratulate Joey on winning all the HBO awards.
It looked rigged.
Nice.
I swear to God, it looked rigged.
Wow.
That happened
Congrats,
this
Joey.
weekend, huh?
No, actually, that was like last November, actually.
Oh.
But
No,
it's
you
just
did.
like, we were just...
But it feels good still.
Yeah.
You did share also with us during our last episode or our last session
Yes.
that you have this thing coming up, and you didn't have all the details. Did you get any more details from
Oh my
that?
God, I should just really ask Steph in the other room. But yeah, like I'll look it up during the entire time we're
No,
talking.
it's you don't have to worry about it. You know what we'll do? We'll add that link again for your newsletter.
Okay.
How's
Thank you.
that?
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You know what? I actually do have some news. We have a newsletter as well. We'll send you a newsletter as soon as each episode is published. So I just wanted to share that. Levi, you weren't here last time, so you've got some stuff to share.
I do. I have some news. So I not this weekend, but next weekend. Paralysis is in 2 film festivals. One of them is the Indie Horror Film Festival in Chicago.
Yay!
Nice.
And the other one, they still have not technically announced it, so I still can't announce it. But I'm going to that one. So I'm going to the one that I can't announce, and then I have friends going to the one in Chicago for me. So, yeah.
That's pretty
awesome.
funny.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it'll be
That's awesome.
Joey,
exciting.
did you get to see it?
Yeah, I did.
What
Like,
did you think?
I loved it. Like, it was, at first I was kind of confused, because I didn't at first I was confused in the whole, because I wasn't fully paying attention. Like, oh, it's two separate timelines, but at the same, well, like, like, I can't. I don't want to say
it's
anything.
non-linear. It's non-linear.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, basically. So I was like, oh, then I picked it. I was like, oh, that's neat. Like, everything, like that's like a really good example of what, like, like a good film that you could do on a mobile, and it's like and I sat there, I was actually enthralled by it. So,
Yeah,
and
it's
like, definitely
captivating, huh?
the execution is like amazing. It's awesome.
I appreciate that.
No problem, dude. That's, I think horror is hard.
Horror is hard, and it is a slow burn, and I know that I will be making changes before we go for distribution, just because I cannot sit with something and just let it exist. So I will be making some slight changes eventually.
Like self-distribution, or are you, doing
so we have some contacts through. I have a friend who has a contact at Amazon, which you can also do self-producing on Amazon, and then we have a contact at Tubi as well, and then there's a couple of horror distributors that have reached out to me, so I have their email if we want to do it that way. But I have also been considering self-distribution. So
indie film rights, dude. Yeah.
Say what?
Was it indie film or like film? Oh my gosh. Oh my god! I'm
so
like,
I can actually know what you're saying, so I can
film
potentially
rights?
do it.
Is that what it is?
The what?
Wait, sorry,
Indie film rights?
Huh? Pardon?
Is that what you said? Indie film rights?
I believe so. Isn't that the? Sorry. I've heard good things about it. I'm actually kind of checking that out now too. With like,
indie film rights. I'm gonna write this down.
Yes, please.
I think
Actually,
I just
I'll
heard about this one today too online. Someone mentioned it.
I'll get information and like just I've been researching. For some odd reason I forgot the name, but like I have everything listed down. Like I'll send it to you. Like,
cool. Yeah, I'd love that. But we're still a ways off from that because we're waiting to hear back from, I think, like 35 to 40 film festivals still. Most of the festivals most of the festivals that we would be in October because of Halloween and it's the horror season. So
I cannot wait till Halloween.
That's great.
Yeah.
Who here loves Halloween?
Oh, it's my favorite holiday.
Oh, yeah.
It is. It's like one big production.
Yeah.
oh gosh.
It's like, it's such a great excuse to just go all out. I mean, special effects, sound effects, get dressed up, turn the children into zombies, whatever, Cinderella, whatever.
Zombie Cinderella.
Why not?
It's fun to go trick-or-treating again with my daughter.
And
miss
if
that.
you're all masked up, oh no, I shouldn't say this, but I mean, but I was gonna say, but I shouldn't say it, that as a grown-up, as an adult, if you're all masked up, right, you can get away with trick-or-treating. And of course, share
Susie,
it with the children.
Susie,
share it with the children.
you are able to because of your height. All myself and Jason and Ryan are, I don't know about you, Joey, but I know about the three of us are all like 6 foot tall. Like we cannot get away with that.
Oh, I don't know. I've met some 12-year-olds that are, 6 foot tall. So anyway, not to give anyone any crazy ideas, but it is Halloween. I can't believe that's happening so close. You know what also reminds me of Halloween, guys?
What's up?
That's the month that the SBP podcast has its birthday.
Happy birthday to
Yeah. So we'll have to talk about that because I think during one of those, we can celebrate it in one of our Fade into Film sessions because there are 2 dates, right? So the first podcast episode came out on October 6th. It was really just a test. And it was very short. And I don't really count it, right? But October 27th was the first official podcast episode, with a guest, a long interview and all that stuff. So, it was just literally just before Halloween.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Sounds kind of like my grandmother had 2 birthdays. I'm not really sure how she worked that out. But.
Well, there's conception.
Heard
I'm not sure if that's what she had in mind, but nonetheless, she had 2 birthdays.
That's
Anybody else got anything they want to share?
Well, Sophia's her short film Sister Jink. We just received 2 acceptances this week for different film festivals. One in New York and then also one in Australia.
Ooh, that's exciting! Congratulations. Will you be going to Australia?
I would love to, but I think it's going to be an online screener. But they are hosting it out of Australia. But
that's awesome! Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Still. Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations, Sophia. My beautiful favorite little
child
mobile filmmaker.
Yeah.
All right. So, shall we jump into our topic?
Yeah.
Who wants to lead it? Levi, since you weren't here last time, how about you lead it? What are your thoughts?
Wow. Wait, just like pressure. Like
no pressure. How would you like to lead that, though? What are your thoughts on this concept of and the reason why this comes up is during the last episode we were talking about what is indie film, and this little part of it that was mentioned was commercializing indie films, and there was a little bit of well, should we or should we not, or wouldn't it be nice to make some money with our indie films? And my personal not industrial, professional opinion on that is you should plan on making money with your film just like any artist does with their art. I believe it's the concept behind it, how when you're producing that, are you thinking about it to make it to commercialize it or not? Because I think that's what gets in the way of your creativity when you're making your movie. But what do you think, Levi?
I mean, I think for myself as a filmmaker, everything stems from the story that I'm trying to tell. So I'm not really thinking about who. And I'm speaking very honestly here. I'm not really thinking about who is my audience and who is, like, how can I sell this? And, what I'm thinking about is how can I tell this story in the most honest way for me as the artist? Because I am my audience. Like, I'm making the movies that I wish that I could have seen as a child. I'm making the movies that get me excited or tell the stories that I wish that I could have seen, and so it's less about the end game for me. It's more about the process and the storytelling. And so, and obviously, like, during that process, there is the hope that people like it. They appreciate the work. The work resonates with them, and that it will be seen by a large audience. But it really, for me, is about telling the story that I want to tell.
That makes a lot of sense, of course. But on just from my perspective, your audience being yourself, you're representing your audience, right? In a way.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, there are other people who are like me, like there are other people who have similar interests as me. And so ultimately, my film will find an audience, or my films will find an audience. It's just a matter of those, like, I mean, it's such a complicated thing, the creative side and then the business side, and how, like, it uses very different sides of your brain. And yeah, so I find I'm still learning the business side. I'm still not fantastic at the business side. I'm getting better at the business side, but it is something that is a process as well,
Yeah. All right, who wants to speak up next?
I don't know. Oftentimes, my films tend to be kind of vulgar, or kind of crude. But so I'm in Utah, and so I could very easily make a movie and sell it that would be centered more around like the conservative religious group that's prominent in Utah, and it could be some kind of PG romantic comedy, very well lit movie, but it's not really anything I would want to. But like artistically, it's not something I'd be interested in doing. And there's been other times where we've done my film group and we've put together horror films that again are kind of crude and oftentimes we'll be sitting in the theater and I'm kind of like, man, I really think this is funny because we make like horror comedy, and I'll think that it's really funny and nobody else is laughing, but maybe like 4 people in the audience. But then I realize, but those 4 people, they'll come up and they'll say how they absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And that's almost better than having it be where everybody liked it because I was trying to be likable. I think it's more rewarding when, because there's going to be plenty of people they'll be like, oh yeah, it was pretty good. But when you have something where some people hate it and some people like love it, the people who love it, they love it.
Yeah.
So
and like your voice
that...
is your currency, you know, like your voice is what is your calling card, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think all of us need to really embrace our voices as artists, you know?
Yeah.
So how does that play into, you know, film versus product, Ryan?
As far as like having something that's sellable, like
the mindset and the purpose of it, because there are people that are saying this. You shouldn't just think of your film as a film. You should think of it as your product.
Yeah.
And you should package it like that from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm. I think that, so like post-production wise, if you're going like, okay, well, I want the poster to look like this, and you know, how are we going to cut together the trailer, things like that. But I think the overall, like the movie that you're making, you should make it as true to what you feel, and not necessarily placating to what you think that people would like. My movie, when I made Married and Loving It, I kind of already in my mind was like, I don't see this isn't going to be an Iron Man global success. But for me, it was like, I want to make a movie. I want it to be about this, and I want it to have a lot of bad, like foul language in it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my goal. My goal wasn't to recreate Hollywood, and I can't speak for everybody else's film scene, but in Utah, there's so many people who are trying to make like a movie that looks like a Hollywood movie. It's got spies and it's got detectives, and it's just, and you can just tell that they're trying to, you know, it looks really good, like visually. They shot it on a red or something like that, but they suck. Like it's just, you're trying to be James Bond when you're not James Bond. Yeah. So
that's my take on this too, Ryan, that if you're trying to recreate a Hollywood film without a Hollywood film everything from budget to crew, then you're creating effects and scenes that become kind of cheesy looking, and then you're distracting from it, especially if you're making a serious film, right?
No, yeah, for sure. And I see a lot of ads sometimes that will be like, oh, if you download this digital package, that way I can do, I don't know, it's like CGI blood, or you know, just these little things, and and then it'll be like, this will really amp it up, and some, like you said, if I have Iron Man in it, then it looks really bad, and it's almost, you know, bad CGI is almost worse than bad sound, you know.
Yeah. Joey.
Yeah, I definitely totally agree. I think I know within my group too, like I have this very big disdain in calling you know, the stuff that we make content, like, you know, granted, you know, being on YouTube, because content just denotes like it's a product, right? It's not my, you know, it's not art anymore, when that's really kind of the first main point that you know, what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And especially within like say I guess in my genre of like, you know, doing action films or something, and it's indie, like you said, you know, like people are trying to do James Bond. At the same time, people are all like especially in the indie action sector, everybody wants to oh, we're like, we're doing a fan film of Marvel, we're doing a fan film of a Star Wars or any, multi-billion-dollar IP that has been already made, like,
Yeah.
with all these, research and development. So they tack on that name to just get impressions or likes or views in their numbers, right? Like it's kind of hard to find originality now, even in indie.
And that doesn't mean not being original doesn't mean that that what I'm trying to say is like there is no real right and wrong in this. I'm just trying to sort of dissect the conversation to figure out which one, you know.
Because I think the thing is with all of I guess in the era of algorithm based media or like a lot of big business that control that makes all of these big movies, a lot of the people now that are going into it haven't seen any of the older films that isn't from a major IP, right? So it's kind of like the idea like now with people like they want to make an action film, it's just always like Marvel or whatever or something like that. But like I said, like even us like making something like Zorro, right? With like with our mobile film and stuff. Zorro hasn't been touched in like 30, 40 years. You're kind of feeling, like no one knows who Zorro. Granted, yeah, he's like a superhero thing too, but like it's kind of like it still was one of the original caped superheroes, right?
And all I think about is Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, exactly, right? And because it's not the CG like spectacle, that a superhero movie now entails, right? There's no explosions, there's no flying, there's no powers and stuff like that. So, and it's especially for the things that we do when we were trying to do this very golden era Hong Kong style martial arts action, it kind of needs people that have trained most of their life in martial arts to replicate what we're doing. Now, obviously, in terms of like action cinema and everything here in America is different. It's like kind of like birthed by cowboys, and they're the ones that got into Hollywood. So a lot of the action scenes that have history of American action is like big brawling, barroom brawls, big punch, big hits kind of thing. And it's not that martial artsy, fast, like specific type of movements. That's almost like a dance.
You guys are good.
Thank you. But but at the same time, I guess what I'm saying is that that's not really the mainstream type of action anymore. That's like a very it's a remnant of the 90s, 80s, maybe even early 2000s, right? So, and we're still doing it.
If you put suits on you guys, on you and Steph, when you're doing your your martial arts things, on some of those clips that I see, it's kind of like The Matrix.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's Wu Ping. That's like a lot of the Hong Kong people that came over to America during the handover, and they were trying to, start their film career here in America during the early 2000s. Yeah, definitely. Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just that. I think it's just the algorithm based when like all of these big money productions are saying, hey, this is what makes a big movie. This is what makes a good movie. It always has to be wide shots, sweeping vistas, and you don't have like it doesn't, no intimacy like film noirs back in the day, right? Where it's just about the person or like the situation. It's people get skewed in thinking, oh, what a movie needs is we need drones. We need like super big locations, like you're never going to make like a one room like film anymore kind of thing, it's kind of weird.
I made a one house film.
Yeah, definitely.
One house film.
yeah, you did.
Definitely.
Hey, actually, so did Ryan, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, as you were saying, as you're speaking, Joey, I was kind of thinking to myself. I was like, I guess, when you know your audience, though, like once you find an audience, it sounds like you guys have an audience that follows you, and I think that you're saying algorithm, and I think it's okay to like once you know your audience, like play to your audience.
Yes.
And I made the comment about kind of living in a state where there's Mormonism is like obviously heavy around here, and I mean it's not to say I wouldn't make a movie for them. It's just if I did, I would just know I'm playing it to them.
Yeah.
And I think
for
that's
different reasons.
I think that's awesome too. I think that for us to practice filmmaking and we get good enough that we realize, oh, I probably would like to try a different genre from what I'm used to. And I think that's perfectly awesome for the growth of us being filmmakers, right? Like, gotta try something different. And you put it into your own, skill set. I think that's amazing, right?
Jason, I don't want to leave you out of this.
Thank you. Well, obviously my role is quite different than the other guys here, but kind of going back to what Levi said, for me also the business brain is quite different than the music making brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so once, deal memos and money's exchanged and all that kind of stuff, like, I don't think about that part of it at all. I'm just completely committed to helping the director tell their story, and I'm only thinking about that and what I'm making. So, and then, it's like I said, it's kind of two different brains, and beyond that, kind of like on a bigger scope to what these guys here were talking about, I do think it's a little bit strange. I remember it seems like kind of antiquated now to think about the term content. It's kind of been around for a while now. But I remember first hearing about that and being kind of uncomfortable with it because I started hearing people describe even music as content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that just felt really weird to me.
Yeah.
Because in a way, everything is content. As soon as you're putting it somewhere, everything that's created, basically, especially for, copy, when you're writing, this podcast is considered a content. Everything in from that perspective of what, why people are calling something content, especially I think it became bigger during COVID, during 2020. So many people were going online and seeing what's online. And I think that terminology of content and people who decided they were going to be a content, quote unquote, creator because they wanted to experiment and had the time to do that, that became a thing. But filmmakers don't like to be called content creators. A lot of artists, don't like to be called content creators. Musicians, like you, Jason, don't like to be called content creators. So it's kind of like this container that we put everybody in.
Yeah. It just kind of feels like it's I don't know. I feel like there's TikToks that are just fun and like, ooh, look at the cool transition that I can do. And it's like, okay, I understand that, but like you're not like
it's because it's consumer based.
That's I guess that's what we're trying to say, right? It kind of takes away the meaning of like, I'm sure everyone like on TikTok, everyone learned how to do a match cut. And they're like, oh my God, this is like the new revolutionary thing. Like it's a match cut.
No, that's
you're amazing.
Like yeah.
like, but and it's but that takes away from the actual depth, I feel like. When it's just aggregated to just like, oh, it's content, it just gives it like it's very 1984 newspeak, like, oh, it's good, it's double good, like it's the way that you say it.
That's why this whole thing, is it a film? And I'm using film, or is it music, right? But is it a film or is it a product? Is so tied into the content creation thing because of consumerism. Because you're catering to the consumer with a product.
I think,
and that's where it comes from.
I mean, I think the end goal of the person is also of the creator, of the person creating it, of the artist or the creator, like my end goal is not to post things on TikTok, like my end goal is to have people's butts in the theater seeing my film. Whereas like I think a content creator's goal is not so much to But I don't know, because I guess like Joey, you're a creator, like you're a filmmaker, like you're you know, sort of like throwing back to the golden age, you know, of the martial arts films. So I guess like, but you're posting on YouTube, which is also a viable thing, you know, like my first feature is on YouTube. So so I guess I don't, you know, it's messy.
Yeah, and
like
I think
I said, it's okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think for me, what I learned to do for myself in terms of perspective, I do have an end goal and the other, like, so if we're just gonna make it two, right? It's either for business or for art. I do whatever I create has to have a goal of one, and the other is the bonus. So if I make something for myself because I made the movie, but it's somehow it's I can sell it, then you know, then that's the bonus. But I'm still, as a creator, I'm fulfilled simply because I made a film that's from my heart or what I wanted to tell the story. Because literally, like our first feature film as art school dropouts, I'm dressed in drag and I'm doing kung fu as an old Asian lady. That's the whole gist, right?
I love it.
And you know, I take she takes down the syndicate and all that crazy stuff, right? And we did this whole thing where trying to it was kind of already an inside joke, but we did this whole Kickstarter thing. But the movie was already made and the Kickstarter was a joke. It's like, oh yeah, dude, I'm only asking for $1. Then literally we released, hey, we actually already made it. Right. And then, you know, it was just using Kickstarter as a way to just promote the movie and stuff like that. So
as a marketing tool.
That's the other thing. So when you begin with a product, there's, you know, that pre-production phase, you know, of like any product. It's like, all right, this is how we're going to market it and blah, blah, blah. You know, there's the whole toy thing. If you're thinking like Hollywood Marvel films and things like that, there's toys. There's like an entire toy industry that comes into the scope of creating that project, you know, like Barbie, you know. You know, are we going to be selling new Barbies because of this? Let's do it. Let's incorporate this, you know. A lot of films are like that, you know, the Minions, you know, all those things are part of the pre-production. But in an indie film, I think part of the pre-production for the most part is, you know, getting funding and things like that, where you kind of need to sort of I know this gets complicated. You're kind of catering a little bit to some sort of a target because you do want the funding to create the film. Right?
I mean, with Paralysis, for instance, we did crowdfund for it, and we broke it up into two. We had the production crowdfunding and then the post-production crowdfunding. And I think that there's a lot of resources out there that can teach you what people actually look for in perks. And like things that personalized things tend to be what people are interested in. So like there is a little bit, it's not really catering your product. It's not like my film is not catered toward a specific audience, but what we posted as perks was definitely catered to, you know, what will people actually want to give money for, you know, and like even as you were talking about Barbie, like we had our little Haggerty Ann dolls that we made, and they're these little plush dolls that we got from the 99-cent store, and then we just made them creepy as hell, and people loved them. So we ended up like I think there were like between 8 and 15 that we ended up making. So
your campaign was awesome and so creative, though. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people do that.
But I deep dove into research to figure out what would do well in a campaign so that we could make the funds, because I've done Indiegogo, I've done Kickstarter, and then we did Seed and Spark for my campaign for Paralysis. And so I sort of did a deep dive research to figure out the most creative and interesting things that we could have for people, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that was your campaign was, I mean, I was so impressed with everything that you guys did. But let's just say that somebody doesn't have a crowd campaign. They just know some people that would be willing to invest in their films. Are they, because that's kind of, so in Hollywood,
that's the end
films,
goal. I don't want to
studios
crowdfund
have
anymore.
those people, right?
Yeah,
They invest, and that's kind of part of the problem, because their film really is 100% a product based on, consumers, and that's going to be the success, and those investors are, looking for that ROI. You know what I'm saying? And they're basing the ROI on the typical traditional things, not new ways of, ingenuity towards making films, because there's no guarantee in that. And they don't want to take that risk, which is kind of is like, well, then don't invest your money in film. But, it's just a whole different thing. But, I just know that there are a lot of CEOs in the film business and things like that are telling independent filmmakers don't, and I'm not saying that they're wrong. I think there is some justification for this depending on what you want to get. I just think that psychologically it does affect your process, and I think that it also can put you at risk of the disappointment that comes with, well, I built the product according to what I was expecting, and then it didn't turn out that way.
And that's why I think that's like a really terrible goal, to think that I'm making a film as a person that has never practiced film, or I'm getting into film, and I'm going to create a film simply because I think that it could sell a lot of money, right? Like that's just kind of unrealistic in terms of goals for the first thing that you want to do, right? And I'm sure we've all met people that are like, yeah, I have this film and I'm putting, a lot of budget into it. And you look at him like, wow, no one in your production has ever shot a short film before at all, or anything, So it's
that's kind of like mobile filmmaking. You have a phone, so you're going to make a film. I'm the first one to push you to do that. But at the same time, I don't expect someone who's never even made a film to make a film with their phone and say, yeah, I'm going all in, first timer,
Like the expectations.
All the more reason why you practice and use the mobile phone.
Well,
right?
that's why I call it the first film syndrome, right? When you, like, the first time you were like, yeah, I'm going to make a film. And you somehow you think, like, everybody thinks that making a movie is easy. Right, for some odd reason, because it's art and everybody has already seen a lot of movies in their lives. Everyone thinks that they could write a book. Everybody thinks that they could make a movie.
I don't know. I think there's also the opposite, where a lot of people are hesitant to make a film, especially when they start. I think part of that has to do with social media and going into the groups and the discussions about filmmaking. Whether you're doing it with a phone or not doesn't matter, but it can get really scary when people start discussing the best way to make a film. How to make a great film.
I think what
that's
I
like
heard Joey was saying was, you're kind of saying, like, everybody thinks that whatever story that happened to them is going to make a fantastic movie. And that's not always the case either, right?
Right.
I've met people before who, this is kind of back to the very beginning of the conversation, or maybe the first topic. Like, there's sometimes I find when I say that, certain people are making, like, they want to be Hollywood or whatever, what I kind of meant was, like, it seems like all they're watching is the current content. And you hit on this point, Joey. It was like, all you're watching is today's content. You're not watching. Very rarely do I see a movie that I didn't like, and it turns out the director has seen, every movie from the 100 and something years. Most often, if someone has been watching silent films and all through the 50s and 60s, and they've been watching these movies that continue to be the best, typically they make just a good movie. It's just those people who are stuck watching. It's like, oh, what movies do you like? And then they name something that's just came out last year, and it's like, that's your favorite one, huh? And so, but
I mean, I'm not going to judge that part. I'm just
your favorite movie of all time, though. I don't know. Like, if you make a horror film and someone was like, well, what's the inspiration? And I was to say, well, Evil Dead. You'd be like, oh, that's really cool, because you would then gather that I've been watching this for quite a while, right?
Sure.
But if it was like, what's your inspiration? And I was like, oh, I smile.
You can definitely like see the roots of what the person is saying and why they're saying such, like, a particular film, right? like, oh, okay, he understands the history, I guess, what he, of why he likes that.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that TikTok is like, in a way, people are learning the basics of editing and things that like George Méliès had to like figure out on his own. And they're all relearning it now. So
actually, funny story. Somebody actually auditioned for one of our, like, for a thing that we're doing. They sent us a TikTok lip sync of them doing, I forgot what movie. I think it was like, I forgot what film it was. It was like it's one a 90s film, but she did this lip sync of a, I don't know, whatever, like audio file on TikTok as her audition. And I'm like, okay.
She's just like lip. So instead of doing a monologue,
but can you emote?
Yeah,
you
know what I mean?
like?
Yeah, dude. I was just kind of sitting there. I'm like, wait, no, this is a joke, right? Like this is a joke.
So it's my face, but it's Jack Nicholson's voice, and it's like, you can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
It's like they gave us, but the funny thing is, there was like 4 more, and that's their acting reel.
Yeah,
because that's what they called it on TikTok, apparently.
But that's the thing that's frustrating about that is that there are producers who are like Netflix, for instance, did the remake of She's All That. They did He's All That.
Yeah.
And the lead actress was a TikToker. And so it's just frustrating the amount of people who are getting these opportunities from TikTok when I'm like, you have no understanding. Like like, to be honest, she's an awful actress. She's an awful actress. And I don't feel bad for saying this because that's not her. That wasn't, she's a TikToker, she's not an actor.
Like, I understand, like, you could match the movements and you could, like, move your mouth.
Yeah.
Like, the way that how the person did it.
See,
but that's
that
person's
I'm
acting.
thinking, that's where I'm thinking it's about the end product. You know what I mean?
I mean, yes, for Netflix it is. For certain studios it is. Like, it's about how many, like, what is a surefire way to get our money back.
Right.
And that is why I'm an indie filmmaker, is because I don't care. I'm telling the stories that I want. I'm not going to cater to what you want, as a studio head, as a, yeah.
I do enjoy that Netflix and even HBO, on the other side of that, though, they allowed like Scorsese to make a 4-hour Irishman movie.
Sure.
Whereas, and the same thing with Zack Snyder's like Justice League, what I was mentioning, HBO. So in that way, it kind of takes away the we've heard before of studios saying, no, the movie has to be cut to only 2 hours or less so that they can play more screenings and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Throughout. There's something else, we're kind of shifting gears here. It's something else we were chatting about, where just Kevin Smith has a story about Zach and Miri make a porno, and he admits that he was trying to make like a Judd Apatow successful film, and so he even has all the main players from Judd Apatow's films, and you have like Seth Rogen, and so he was like, I was trying to make that Judd Apatow film and then have the box office success of it, but it never played out that way. And he relates it to like when you're playing hockey, like you don't want to be where the puck is, you want to be where the puck's going to be. And Susy, you said something about that where it's kind of like, if we're trying to make the product that we think the people want versus making the product that we want to make, and then hopefully people like it from there. And then you'll see, if you look at Kevin Smith's timeline, it's about the moment when he made like a hard shift and just started doing dramatic films for a little bit.
Because I think we're going to overthink it. If we all know what a film is. I think if you say to somebody, you want to make a film, right? That's a film. If I go to somebody and I say, I want to make a song, everybody knows what a song is. If I say, I want to make a product, automatically you're shifting gears. You're thinking business, you're thinking profits, you're thinking packaging, and now you're overthinking. You're overthinking what you're creating. And I feel like you're putting blocks in front of your artistic, creative process, which I think in the end, people need the confidence to understand that is what in the end really sells. And if it doesn't, try it again and keep trying. This isn't, you're not going to die because you have to make, 6 films before you get to a place where people appreciate what you made, right?
Yeah. I relate, sometimes I relate back to, because I come from the band world many years ago. I remember trying to write something in our studio in this band that I was in a long time ago. And I was thinking about the end listener. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I just wasted like 3 hours of my time because it was trash. And I never did that again.
Yeah.
So when I go to write, I'm not thinking about anybody. I'm just thinking, and like you said, Susy, thinking about those things throws up blocks, So when I'm writing something, it's trying to toe that line between intellect and inspiration, And in order to have that flowing, I can't be thinking about anything like anybody else or what they think of what I'm doing. It has to just be about finding that flow state.
That's kind of what happened to me with my, when I write on Substack, and just writing freestyle. I call it freestyle because it's not like when I was writing articles or when I'm writing an article for my podcast or something like that, or for my business. It's so different. And I really missed that kind of writing, the freestyle writing, where I'm just letting it go and letting it flow. Ooh, that should be another t-shirt, huh, Joey?
Yeah.
But I'm just doing that, and I'm not interrupting myself. And then when I don't really proofread it that much because I'm not that concerned about it. And I tend to get sometimes a better reaction from people from that as opposed to the others, which is really weird. But I think, we all have an artist inside of us. And I think we don't have the confidence of letting our artistic side supersede, because it's like, what you were saying, Levi, there's 2 brains always,
yeah,
playing along.
And to be honest, on the opposite side of what we're discussing right now, I'm writing my next script. And Jason, I had told you I think I was up to page 73. I'm back down to 68 because I chopped a chunk, and because I'm struggling because as an indie filmmaker, I'm acknowledging that some of the things that I'm writing are outside of what I am capable of doing, financially, various things. So it is sort of on the opposite side of what we're discussing, but I do still have limitations, and so I'm struggling right now in writing the script and trying to...
Can I give you some advice?
Please.
Okay. You write your film in the way that you want your story to go, and think Steven Spielberg or your favorite director that would be making this film is going to make it.
Sure.
And finish it.
No matter what I'm going to.
But then when you're done with that, then, and you're satisfied with that, this is the movie that I would go to the theater, I'm going to put your butt on the chair type thing. Now you look at it as Levi and start making that film fit,
Sure.
Okay, how can I get the resources to make this happen? And then start to trim what you need to trim, not because you think you can't make it, but because you've tried and haven't succeeded at making it that way. I think everybody should write their screenplay and their film and their story with their heart, without thinking about, because I know that's the advice. I used to give that advice. Don't write a screenplay that that you can't make. Forget airplane crashes, blah, blah, blah. And I think that I was wrong in saying that. I'm totally fine with admitting it. Now I'm saying the opposite. Write your big film the way that you want to, and then go out and try to make that happen. And if you can't, then you start chopping up things that you really don't need that way.
I think it's also just intimidating coming off of something like Paralysis, which was a very intimate story, and it's exactly what I intended it to be.
Yeah.
And to go to something that is like this many characters and this big of a project, I think I'm just anyway. Yeah.
You can do it, man. Do it.
Yeah.
Just
You're very
finish it.
sweet.
Just finish
Yes.
it. Don't worry about what you can or cannot do.
yeah.
Don't get in your own way, Levi.
Yeah. That's what all of my friends are telling me, but I'm just like, fuck.
Exactly.
The
Kind of weird. I think
friendly
the
competition-
opposite. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna quickly say, like, the friendly competition in me when you said that you're like at page 75. I was like, God damn it! I was like, I'm only at 72.
Oh, I'm at 68 now, so
Yeah.
you're good. You're good, man.
Yeah, it's
I
good,
chopped
Joey.
a chunk. You're ahead.
But I guess what Susy said, I kind of also have the opposite outlook with it too, though. I think.
In what regard?
Like being like the idea of like writing to your resources, right? It's also kind of it's one of those things that I think I like sometimes for certain projects. I like putting limits on me, so I have to think laterally instead of instead of me saying like, oh, I just need more money or more resources to do a particular part of my script. I wonder if the storytelling or like what I can do laterally would be like just the same. Like sometimes it's like maybe I'm just looking at as that barrier of money as like the only obstacle, when it's like, wait, maybe my story doesn't actually need that. It doesn't make sense to do that.
Well,
Like,
yeah, you can always do that after. I just think that you should finish your film.
Get the story
in the way
out,
You see
yeah.
it, your vision.
Yeah, and that's what I'm stuck with right now. Is that anyway? That's off topic. But yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Not
That's
really.
awesome.
It's actually part of this because that's the struggle for all filmmakers, because they're working around that. And if you start thinking about the product itself as a product as opposed to a film,
Yeah.
I think that kind of gets in the way. It's another obstacle for you in your creative process.
That we're putting in front of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think we did really good, and we didn't even talk about AI. Yeah, I think it's great. So does anybody else have anything that they'd like to add to this?
Don't submit auditions of you doing lip syncs on TikTok.
On TikTok?
No TikToks as auditions.
Right? Like it's I don't even know what this girl sounded like. Like it's a crazy thing.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's like the talkies before the talkies or something, right?
Yeah.
The talkies before the talkies. There's another T-shirt just coming out with a bunch of T-shirts. Not
You
just
should sell merchandise for this thing. So
I should,
Yeah.
It's just a matter of sitting down, not overthinking it as a product.
Yeah. I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
You see. Yeah, so let's wrap this up with going around the table and just sort of telling everyone that's out there overthinking their next film project, mainly with a phone, because I think the smartphone part that comes into this allows you to be a little less, this is a product. I think what do you guys think? I totally think that, obviously, that, hey, you're thinking about making a movie with your phone. Stop worrying about, things that, a Hollywood production, type of a thing. But what do you guys want to share some tips for our listeners? Jason, I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, I think for composers, you need to use the tools and the colors that fit the story, and it doesn't matter what it is. You can bang metal trash cans and record that, or you can, I did a score that was it was a horror film a couple years ago that was 50% of it I created on my iPad, because I have a synthesizer app on there that I just think is amazing. And, the other half of it I wrote with guitars that I manipulate into sounding like synthesizers. So, Sometimes it's good to have limitations, kind of what Joey was saying a few minutes ago, to set limitations upon yourself. I think sometimes people suffer from having too many choices at their disposal when they're creating. Like if you open up a DAW music software, there's like a million little sounds and plugins and instruments at your disposal, and it can be overwhelming actually. So, but if you have, a story that you're working towards, you just let that guide you, and you make the sounds that the film is calling from you, to help you tell that story. And it could be anything. It could be, recording things around your house or textures. So.
Awesome. Levi?
I mean, so what's interesting is when I make a film on an iPhone, I don't care about the limitations. And that's one of the things that I've loved about shooting on an iPhone is that I'm like, you know what? Like, even though this is not expected, I'm going to do this, which I've loved. And what I guess is interesting to me is that I'm intending for the next project to not be shot on an iPhone, and that's I think partly why I'm struggling is because I'm feeling more limitations. So it's just interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel there's a freedom with an iPhone because I feel like to a certain degree there's still a large group that doesn't take iPhone filmmaking seriously. And I love iPhone filmmaking. I love the freedom that it gives me. I love that I can surprise people with what I can do with it, and that I can tell the story regardless, of other people's expectations.
You can inspire yourself.
Yeah, I inspire myself when I shoot on an iPhone. Yeah, whereas like I find when I'm shooting on something else, I am more in my head. Yeah, so. I mean, yeah, it's just not waiting for permission and just doing it. And I need to take my own advice and do that with the current project,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ryan?
I think that anybody who has a smartphone and wants to go make a film should absolutely go and entertain that idea and enjoy themselves while they do it. I also think, however, that if you want to be good at any of these art forms that we're speaking of, you've really got to do your homework, watch a lot of movies, watch a lot of old movies, read books on how they did it, watch interviews. I do a lot of that when I'm working. I'm listening to interviews of writers about how their writing process, or actors on their acting process. And even while we sit here, I have Robert Rodriguez's book, Rebel Without a Crew. I'm currently reading George Malay's autobiography. Just always be studying that. And then, go ahead and make 10, 15 short films just over and over. Grab your buddies, make it. And you get those mistakes out of the way.
Joey?
Yeah, second that. I think the freedom to create, I think the focus is that you got to just create your films, no matter how short. 30 seconds, 10 hours, it doesn't matter, right? As long as you tell a story that what you want. And I think what I was saying earlier with the whole pick a goal, right? And everything else is the bonus. And I feel like that's an easy way to help people that overthink. Because I know, somebody in our group, Angela, she overthinks when she does her creative endeavors where, it's like it has to check all the boxes. But if you could just think I'm making this for myself. And if I make this for myself and I really love it, and 2 people online get to see it and they love it, I'm forever grateful.
Yeah.
Right? And if it so happens those 2 people, I don't know, one of them happens, okay, I have this story. I'll just be really quick about it, right? So a long time ago, I tried out for Power Rangers, back in 2000 something, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's for Power Rangers SPD. Well, I tried out. I didn't get the role, but back then there was this website called my5minutes.com where you upload your thing and people could download it through torrents, your videos or whatever, so they could watch it. So I put up my audition tape there, and my audition tape, what I did was I made a short, like, kind of Power Ranger like film. It's not Power Rangers, but something else. Like I made my own little superhero thing. Cool. And there's this dude in Canada, and he was a janitor or whatever, and he at his like kung fu school, and he said he saw that, and he was like, I got this email like a long time ago, and it's like, hey, I saw what you did, and I thought that was really cool. I mean, it wasn't the best, and it's not like you're like the best actor, best performer, but that really inspired me to do what I really wanted to do. And I want to work in Japan as a stunt person, to work in like, the Power Rangers type of show. Right. And I was like, cool, man. Awesome. Fast forward like 11, 13 years later, this guy went to become a stuntman, and he did everything, and eventually became had built up enough money and stuff to make his own production company.
Wow.
And then he hired me, and that's when I got that's when I started working in Japan many years ago. So
that's amazing.
So I would tell people that because ultimately for me, when it comes to filmmaking, I don't care. I don't ever want to go to Hollywood because that one person that I affected with my film already happened, and I'm already satisfied for the rest of my life. Right. And he's still hiring me till now. So it's like,
well, I'm living in Hollywood, so screw you.
It's hard, man. Yeah. I did stunt work over there for many years. And it's not.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Oh man, see, and that's what it's all about, right? It's about inspiring other people, right? With your art, with your work, with whatever you create. I mean, just walking about.
Because there are other artists that inspired all of us.
Exactly.
I mean, I know for myself, I look back at the films that I saw growing up, and that's why I'm a filmmaker, Yeah.
I mean, I don't know of anyone, just going to end this with AI and say, I don't know that anyone's ever going to look at something through AI and go, oh, that AI, that artificial intelligence totally inspired me to be an artist.
Right.
That's funny.
All right. Well, hey, guys, thank you for being part of the panel. Again, this was great. Say goodbye to our listeners.
Bye,
See you next time.
2 weeks.
See you next
See you
time.
2 weeks.
Bye, guys.
Don't
Bye.
send TikTok auditions.
Don't send TikTok auditions.
Study hard. Grab your phone. Make a movie.
Study hard, yeah.